Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? It feels like the last week of the transfer window has been one of the longest weeks of the last couple of months. Every day there feels like there's another report, there's another rumour, not necessarily what we're after, which is incoming transfers, but it's actually been potential outgoings. I think last week we were chatting about the big links with Girona and Matt O'Reilly, and it's developed even further on this week as well. Joining me for the Flagship podcast as ever is Meehall. Meehall, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Hail, people. How are we doing? It is, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm banging on with this. It is incredibly hot in Australia. And it's going to be 36 degrees tomorrow. I'm supposed to be playing cricket, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, can I point out, for one, two things maybe about the Matt O'Reilly thing. Firstly, can we not announce news at 11 o'clock at night for people who live in Australia? Because that makes it really difficult to sleep. When you suddenly like, no. And for two, is it nice, do you reckon, Quinny, to know that other teams base their transfer policy on who's played well against them in Europe in the same way for many years Celtic did?
Yeah.
And Rangers still do this. So it's good to know.
Not a bad way of scouting, is it?
Yeah, I wonder if we should have they'll be in for Kyogo next, and final they'll sign Lagerbielke.
Wouldn't that just be picture perfect? Sadly, that's not the case. With before recording the last couple of days, the main thing everyone's been chatting about, of course, if you're not aware, is Atletico Madrid's reported interest in a loan to buy bid for Matt O'Reilly that the club have refuted. Big Matt's going nowhere. He's super happy at the club, and we are not selling him in this window. No chance. No way, Jose, is what we're telling everyone who comes. But it does feel like, Matt O'Reilly is one of the players that all Celtic fans have been forever expecting some interest to come. When it was Girona last week, maybe some people were a wee bit like, yeah, come on, like Matt O'Reilly should be moving to a bigger team than Girona if he's leaving Celtic, perhaps. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, unfortunately, you speak something into existence quite often as a Celtic fan in these situations, and Atletico Madrid have came knocking. I'm not sure that this is a deal that will go through in this window, because again, anyone who's been watching the transfer market will see Atletico Madrid have just spent 26 million on another little guy called Arthur Vermeeren, who's like more of a defensive midfielder, like 18, wee Belgian wonder kid type guy. So it's hard to imagine they're going to go and spend the sort of money that you would need to get Matt O'Reilly in this window as well. But the interest is ever gathering, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realise when you said no way, Jose, that you were on first name terms with Atletico sporting director. I don't know if he's called Jose, I just couldn't resist the shit joke. Yeah, well, so here's there's two things about this, right? I've realised I just said that twice in a row. But there's firstly, like the loan to buy thing to get around FFP, piss off. Like, if you're going to pay money, I don't want to be like FFS sign Martin Boyle, but like if you want to sign somebody, Atletico Madrid, just go out and sign them. Don't fanny around. And for two, like I think it's actually, whisper it quietly, it could work quite well for us because everyone we don't have to suffer for a whole summer of will Matt O'Reilly leave. We know that yes, he will leave. As long as we get until next week and he's still a Celtic player, like he can go in the summer. And we now know 20 million start the bidding. Like it can't be lower than 20 million because he's not going to get worse between now and June. If anything, he'll get better if his stats continue. He keeps playing as well as he has been doing, and there's no reason to suggest he won't. And also, he's going to go to the Euros with Denmark. And I don't know. I haven't checked the Denmark team recently, but
could go to the Euros. Let's say. I don't know if I'd say will go. Could go.
Well, as I say,
I think he should go. But
we would have all said this about Kyogo, I suppose, but they'd have to be pretty good if he's not playing. But yeah, I think the other thing that you mentioned that I thought you've gone out and signed for Mail, and they've also signed a goalkeeper.
Yes, they have.
And this is at a time which I think you'd have to be under a rock in the football world to realize, not to realize that nobody is spending any money on anything. This has been the quietest January transfer window in ages. There's suddenly Atletico are throwing money left, right, and centre. Like 2 players for pretty decent money in pretty quick succession suggests that it will be difficult for them to get a third. And it's kind of suits all parties to just sit on it. So obviously, you do a little bit of sort of stages of grief when these things come through, especially if it's come through at 11 o'clock at night. But you see him and go, oh, no, this is terrible. Same as we did to CCB last week. And then you think, well, if he was to go in the summer, that'd be pretty good. I think the board would be real dumb to sell him now. And, I'm not saying sell him and we riot, but certainly doesn't help the situation along, which is already, it's not full on toxic like it was maybe 6 weeks ago, but it's like one step down from toxic, especially given that we don't ever reinvest any money that we spend. So yeah, I think I'm more pleased. Pleased isn't the word, is it? I'm less. What's the opposite of shame? Less shame than I was when it first came out. I've kind of calmed down to it now. But yeah, in principle, I'm not against it in terms of like, this is what we want to do, right? Buy a guy for not very much, sell him for quite a lot within a year and a bit. What, 2 years would it be by then? 18 months, 2 years? So, yeah, it's not now, please. Sell him in the summer. First week, 20 million start the bidding as of the day we pick up the trophy on end of May, start of June.
I think 20 million is absolutely, it has to be like the first installment or something. I think, especially if you're waiting till the summer, like somebody like Matt O'Reilly, including like interest that could come from down south, like this is a guy that Celtic really need to start, like we have with Tierney and progressively the last couple of sales that we've had, like with Jota, that's just also a bit of a one-off situation in a lot of ways, but is moving the outgoing transfer fees into that kind of modern era as well, in the hope that it does come around. I was saying this on one of the live streams on the channel this week, Meehall, but like, I really want the club to get, everyone, you can see, the Leopards haven't changed their spots in a lot of respects. They are like very centrally greedy towards like keeping the club rich and all the rest of it. It's quite clear to see that with the transfer fees that have been spent to this point. But I want them to get a taste for that bigger part of the football world that we're trying to chase into, and that Champions League campaign next season would hopefully do that. But somebody like Matt O'Reilly, like, there's not that many players. Like, a lot of people forget with football players, especially when we talk about goalkeepers, right? But a lot of people think with football players that a lot of them are like interchangeable. Like, oh, this guy's a midfielder that just runs box to box and he's similar age and whatever. But especially when you get to the guys that are that are a cut above average, let's say, they're not interchangeable. That they don't come around every day of the week. They're all pretty hard to find, and not every time as we can see across football. There's tons of examples of great player, wrong club at the wrong time, and it doesn't work, and then they move somewhere else and they find a career for themselves. So I don't think you can underestimate how valuable holding on to someone like O'Reilly could be, even at the next season, if it isn't something eye-watering, it isn't a proper big bid, because his value, like you say, it doesn't get worse. If we play Champions League next year and we have a better fist at it, we play 4 home games, we get to 5 home games because of the way the competition will be formatted next year. Like, some players go for then obscene levels of money, after a good Champions League campaign for teams like us. So I want the board to be greedy, and I want them to be kind of as resolute as they have been in some other matters, and like try and hold firm on this one and try and get every penny we can for this deal, because you can't rule out, or you can't guarantee these things come back to you again in 3 years from now after you spend another 12 million on 14 players.
Yeah, so you're right, and I don't. Obviously, we've joked a fair bit about like, just don't sign one £8 million player, saying 4 £2 million players, but like, O'Reilly kind of is the poster boy for that strategy working, because if for example we went out next week and signed a guy from MK Dons for 1.5 million, a left back for example, we would be up in arms. Like, what are you doing? No ambition, blah, blah, blah. But the difference is, so if you think of the trajectory of Matt O'Reilly, this time last year he wasn't in the team. Like, Aaron Moy was in the team above Matt O'Reilly. O'Reilly was on the bench. Now, I didn't think that was the right idea at the time, and I think, but you couldn't deny that Aaron Moy was playing well and was difficult to shift from the team. It's kind of how I feel about Scales and Narotsky right now. Like, one's a better player, but one's playing well enough to stay in the team. You can't really come out. I mean, I would, because I'm a ruthless bastard, but you'd keep him in because you love him. So, but like, if we turn this into what it can be, then that's kind of what we're meant to do. And the difference is that I don't think that but now, maybe this is me being naive, right? And we all remember the biscuit tin in the 90s. But I think at some point they will realise that if you keep selling guys for 25 million quid, you do eventually have to buy somebody for more money afterwards. And I could easily see a world, and this makes me sound like I'm already preempting my disappointment in the future, but in which they sign Bernardo for 6 million, whatever his release cost is, something not enormously large, and then go, well, we signed the O'Reilly replacement, and well done, everybody. And then you've got, Holm, and then there'll be another guy who's the next Holm. When you think, well, yeah, I get the logic. But the way it is now, like, if we go into the second half of this season with McGregor, O'Reilly, Bernardo, Hatate, Iwata, and Holm, like six players, 2 for each position, that's pretty much perfect. And anybody after that, is Daniel Kelly or whatever. That's when you bring in the youth player. Like, this is how it should work. Sorry, David. Sorry, DT14. Get yourself to Serie A, mate. You can shoot from anywhere. Slower, you can shoot. But yeah, so this is kind of how I would like the squad to be set up. And if that means that when somebody goes out the top, you move the next guy up and you bring in the guy at the bottom, like, I do kind of understand that. But the idea is to make the guy that you bring in, you could then go up a level of class in that. So instead of bringing in a £2 million 20-year-old Norwegian, you then bring in a £6 million 22-year-old. I'm sure they can also be Norwegian, but like, and I just don't think they'll do that. And this is kind of, until that cycle gets broken, I don't think anybody will believe there's any point in selling anybody. I think as well, there's a I've mentioned it this podcast before, there's a big theory in other sports, especially out here. There's a company out here that does this, which would suggest that the best thing that you can do in any team is to keep the same people in it, like over an extended period of time, which is kind of what you're talking about there. That there is a point to get rid of O'Reilly, but you really have to be very confident that you can replace not only his contribution, but also his cohesion with the other players on the team, which, I mean, yeah, we have a Tati who's currently not playing, who I would say is in the best 3 midfielders that we have. So you might say, well, he can go and, but it's that should be factored in, is that we have to go and find another player then. And O'Reilly's skill set is really difficult to replace because he is also kind of perfect for what we need, which is a really technical sort of half space, big. Well, is big as important as fast? So
I think it's power in midfield, and especially when you get him into the final third, like, defenders bounce off him. Like, he is top drawer. Like,
he's got a bit of the logic about him, in which he's not fast, but he is long and sort of sturdy enough that it's very difficult to get a ball off him. I don't think anybody's calling Tom Rogic like a great physical specimen, but having met him once at a pub in Sydney, he is a lot bigger than I thought he was. Like, and O'Reilly, I imagine, is the same.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a unit when, especially in the Champions League, when you see him against, like, other players that are, like, you've imagined to be, like, big, huge centre backs and all the rest of it, like, especially like that Atleti. I think, but like Bernardo for 6 million, because we're not going to just gush over O'Reilly here, but Bernardo at 6 million for me, if anyone thinks that's the solution or that's an O'Reilly replacement, and I know this is maybe a bit premature, the guy could have a blinding second half of the season. He's done okay. He's done okay. Let's say to this point, I know everyone's really enamored with him at the moment, but he's done okay overall. But he would need to be absolutely pulling up trees and keeping O'Reilly probably out the team for that situation for me to be, that's a great move. Like, sell O'Reilly for however many millions we get, and then let's just sign Bernardo. Because I think if you were going into Champions League with McGregor, Hatate, and Bernardo as your midfield, you're like, come on, it's nowhere. That's nowhere near the move.
You're gonna get thrashed. I think as well, similar to what you said before, Bernardo's fundamentally a different player. Like, he isn't. I would say O'Reilly is 80% attack, 20% defense. Like, he's almost a 10 in terms of his what he's really, really good at. Creative passing, his touch, stuff like that. He's very much more of a 10 than it is an 8. And it's just the way that, if he'd have been playing 15 years ago, he would have been a 10. Like, I think he'd have been one of these players, and he's a bit big for a 10, but he's a 10. Whereas Bernardo is definitely an 8. And I think that's something, like, Bernardo wants to play 10 yards further back the field than O'Reilly does. Hatate, I could say, as we've discussed before, I think I could see Hatate moving across there, because I think he's kind of all things to all men. But and also no things to no men in the same game. But like, noticeably now start. Or, I love Georgia Samaras, and he is basically midfield Samaras. That's what I've decided. In the same way that I've decided that Palma is the Honduran Chris Commons. Like, this is the way that my brain is currently working.
I can't take the Samaras one. I can't take that one. I think Tati is a cut above
No.
Sammy.
But what I mean is in the sense that he doesn't. He has no memory of his successes or failures. Like Samaras, you could pass every time he touched the ball was a new beginning, and when he lost it, it was then to just started over again. Which I think is a positive quality in a player, like especially a creative player. Like he never dwells on how many passes he's missed. He just thinks the next one's going to work. But yeah, I think you could play him on the right hand side and be fine. But yeah, fundamentally, I would say Bernardo is not the same player trying to do the same thing. He's more of a replacement for what Callum McGregor was 3 years ago. But I got a thought on this, but I'm going to save it for later. I got thoughts on our Champions League midfield next year. And it's going to be hot take, slightly wild. I don't know. We'll get to it because I know you're supposed to be hosting this, Quinny, but Mikey Johnston. I've only just learned this because I was watching cricket, but Mikey Johnston's going to West Brom.
Yeah, feels like that.
Loves the West Midlands. Have you ever been to West Bromwich? Yeah, it's
no.
Well, I can't remember where Mikey Johnston's actually from in Scotland, but if you like grey. Which I know you're from Dumbarton, right? I've been to Dumbarton once. Yeah. Says somebody from Rochdale, Britain's poorest town. But I reckon West Bromwich is pretty grim. He could fit right in there.
Currently 5th in the table, 40 goals scored, 27 conceded in 28 matches, 45 points collected. They're probably at the bottom end of the playoff fight. They're in 5th, and the top 4 are kind of detached from them in the table, if that makes sense. So maybe chapping on the door of the Prem. Maybe he's a wee super sub there. I don't know, but Tom Rogic went there and kind of rode his way into retirement quite quickly. So
Tom Rogic is unsuccessful. I think did Samaras not go there as well?
Oh, by the way, he might have done. But when they were in the Prem with maybe Steve Clark or something.
I mean, can't. What team? Sometimes you think. Obviously, it's a Celtic podcast, so but you think of just things that happen in the Premier League. I know we've had we had last week's trip down memory lane for Bebe, and this week's can be Avram Grant is marrying.
Did you see the message? Did you see Bebe's goal?
Oh, what a goal! Yeah, I was tagged in that. A lot of people got to know about the goalkeeper, to which I say, try and enjoy yourselves. Just try and have a good time. I don't know. But yeah, Avram Grant also is managing an AFCON.
Oh wow!
He was Zambia with. Imagine the combination of worlds that have collided for Pat Sandaka, Fashion Sakala, and Avram Grant to be in the same changing room. Imagine what they talk about. Yeah.
Do you know one I seen that caught me off was the Argentinian manager Hector Cooper. I don't know.
Oh, Hector Cooper, yeah.
He was like the manager of like Syria or something like that.
Yeah. He took them through, but he was the manager at Valencia before Rafa Benitez. I think when they won the title in like 2000, and the team that had like Ruben Baraka and Mendieta and maybe even before Aymar, maybe like Kelly Gonzalez. This was a pretty
Kelly Gonzalez would have been in that team.
Good Valencia team. The one that made the Champions League final. I think he managed it. That's not. Someone check me on that.
So yeah, Mikey Johnston is West Brom.
You come back to La Liga 2001 with Quinny and Meehall, with a bit of Asian Cup.
You go that transfer to everywhere in world football.
But, Mikey Johnston though. I mean, as long as he doesn't play for Celtic, right?
Well, yeah. Let's maybe see if we can get a couple million for him, help towards the old FFP. But see the old FFP regulations that we're under. We are only really under European ones because Scotland, I don't think really have any. Obviously, because it's just Scotland. But so, and the way the European one is worked, it's more of as far as I understand it, it's more of a wage structure thing, rather than expenses and whatever. So, one of the other so maybe we'll get some money for Mikey that maybe helps out with some stuff later on. But one of the other loan things that's been kind of knocking around early part of the transfer window has been splitting and dividing opinion. Is Liel Abada. Now, a lot of the interest around him at the moment is reported to be loans with options and obligations to buy from various clubs that are really unnamed at this point across the European kind of top 5 divisions. And as much as the O'Reilly one, I don't think that makes any sense at all to do as a loan with any, even if it is just for FFP. They've basically bought them now, but we're going to get our money later. None of that is pointless, is worth doing. Abada, however, I wouldn't mind doing that with, because I think somebody like Abada, especially if Celtic are good enough to keep the obligation or the option to buy probably off the table in the contract and just have it as like,
Go play somebody
a shop
else
window.
Yeah,
a shop window opportunity. A league that's more reputed, because let's be honest, like players in Scotland do get undervalued. But if you put them into Portugal, you put them into Holland, even the places that are reported, Italy, France, Germany, England, you put him into any of those places and he does 5 goals, 3 assists, you'd probably treble his SPL value,
Yeah, it's like the reverse Bundesliga tax, right?
Yeah.
The SPFL discount. I'm very torn on this, right? Because I really haven't decided if Abada's any good, but he is definitely effective. And those are two different things, right? So
yeah.
I think it would be bad in general. Now, we haven't seen Nicholas Kuhn play. If we got Kuhn, but then immediately lost another winger who we know can play every week. Like Abada you could play him every week and he basically scored enough goals to be worth having in the team. Much as I think he's sort of a fundamentally flawed player. But I wonder if we should at least have 2 for a bit, because then you've got 4 wingers for 2 positions, which is kind of what you want, and you don't have to play Mikey Johnston, you don't have to play James Forrest, and we don't have anybody else. Well, Yang's at the Asian Cup, I suppose, but then you could say put Yang on loan, and Abada I don't think his value would drop particularly. Excuse me, and Yang would get to play for, I always say Hibs, but he gets to play for somebody else. And I think that would be more beneficial for us as a club to have 6 months of Yang in the SPFL somewhere else on loan and 6 months of Abada at us, even if he's second choice. Or, he's at the moment, it would be Abada and Yang and Kuhn, which is 1 too many. But I think if it was, say, Kuhn and Yang isn't competing with Kuhn. Does that make any sense? Yeah. So I think I would rather have the 2 players who compete with each other and Yang on loan, if that was up to me. Now, the big unknowable here is that we don't know how Abada feels. Like, Abada might just be like, I don't want to be here anymore, which I think is, we can't really complain about. Yeah, you can't really complain about that from his perspective. Like, that's how he feels. That's how he feels. In for any other player in any other situation, you'd be like, mate, you're getting paid enough, get on with it. But I think this is a bit different. And we also, we can't really complain about that, given that we signed 3 players from Russia from the Russian league when they got kicked out of everything. Not that Israel getting kicked out or whatever, but you understand what I mean. Like, an extenuating factor came in, and we swooped to get Starfelt, Haksabanovic, Abogor. And that's just the ones I can remember. Maybe there's another one that Haksabanovic I've already said. So the difference is, though, here's my counterfactual. Abada goes on loan to Watford, I think was one of the teams. Actually, West Brom might be one of the teams as well. Which
That's not happening.
Yeah, not in the Champo. But I did think it's funny that, there's a joke whenever somebody comes in front of good players, somebody on Twitter will go like, here's, you want Kieran Tierney, and you put a picture of I don't know, Andy Ralston up. Yeah. So imagine if West Brom thought they were getting Liel Abada, but it was actually making Mikey Johnston. Look at this great winger. So if he was to go to, imagine he goes to, I don't know, Feyenoord, right? Or Frankfurt. But then he doesn't play and he's rubbish, then you actually lose value on him. For whatever reason, he gets injured, I'm not sure that this is the slam dunk adds value that we think it is, and it might be the best value you can add is just continuing to play for us, because if I was the recruiter, I would look at it and go, stats year 1, year 2, good, injured year 3. Okay, so that's a discount because he hasn't played really. So he has to play somewhere. And if he played at us, you could guarantee that he would play. He will get X amount of games from now to the end of the season if he's fit. Could you guarantee that at another club, or he's got to come in and compete with whoever they already have? Maybe not. So in that case, you suddenly got a guy who couldn't even get into the team at Feyenoord. For whatever reason. It could be that he gets ill, or he has a loss of form or any of these reasons that make them think he's not as good as we. Whereas if he was at Celtic, we would go, well, we've seen him play for 2 years. We know he can do it. And it's a lot easier to get back in. He would get a longer rope if he was to fall downstairs or whatever,
Yeah.
I hope I'm making sense there. Do you understand what I mean? But
yeah.
People think that he will only go up because he'd go to Germany and score goals. Well,
maybe he wouldn't.
He might not. Whereas here, I think he would score goals just because he would always be in the team.
Yeah, I think because I'm certainly leaves in this window. So I don't see any, like, we rested McGregor and Vickers. And I don't think Vickers was really in contention for the Thistle game, but like he obviously didn't play it. And I think, Abada's coming back from injury and all the rest of it, right? But I see him playing that game. I see him playing, he'll probably play against Ross County at the weekend. And I just see this as shop window, like you say, but he's been injured for a while. And it's anyone who is demonstrating an interest. Yeah. Look, he still runs, he still scores. He's just as good as he ever was.
He still gets caught offside 4 times a game.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah. They're really good at the offside trap, Buckie Thistle. They're not good at anything else, but we want to see their offside trap.
So yeah, I can't see a world where we keep him, to be honest with you, especially if there is actual interest. If the interest isn't there, Celtic, I think he will get on with it for a few more months to the summer window. But I think his days as a Celtic player are essentially numbered. I think there's no way he stays for any extended period of time at this stage, really. It is a matter of time. That's just what I always come back to. So if there is interest, I don't think anyone is going to slow down. If anything, they'll probably expedite it a bit. So Abada, one to definitely watch out for as we come into the last couple of days of the window. We're all still pining for incoming, and there's nothing anywhere near happening.
How many times a day do you refresh the Kerrydale Street transfer window thread?
Probably nowhere near the same amount as you, I'm guessing.
No, well, I'm a morning only guy. I've cut myself down. In the summer, I can't deal with it. But did you notice that there was one big incoming, or one big return? Everybody's favourite Twitter ITK, Hoopsman Brian, # what else? Made a long awaited coming back from the cold, which is really chef's kiss of stupid transfer window nonsense. I used to love that. I don't know if it's a joke. Don't know if it's real. Don't care. Too funny. But yeah, it's so. This is annoying, right? Mostly because I think we don't actually need that many players. And we get to this stage in every transfer window where we, not the club, but supporters tend to go, crap, we haven't signed anybody. Where's our, we need a left back, whatever. Which is true, we do need a left back. But when we have historically signed players late in the window, it's your, El Kakuri's, people like that. And it tends to not go very well. And maybe it's because I try and keep a sensible head on these things and not try and let the Kerrydale Street transfer window thread rule my mind. But I just go, well, would you rather sign a shit player, or would you rather sign a good player, or would you rather sign? So if the choice between you get to sign a player but he's shit, he's John Joe Kelly, he's Jeremy Tolian, or would you rather say, well, actually, so there's a thing in sports analytics, right, where I think it was an NHL club. One of the very first sports analysts, basically, when he was interviewed, they said, what do you actually do? And he goes, I'll just tell you no twice a year and I'll save you millions of dollars. And what he meant was that it wasn't so much, he couldn't recommend players per se, but he could say, this guy is shit. And if I look at Thiago Araujo, I go, is he a left back? Yes. Is he a good left back who would be better than Greg Taylor? Not quite sure. Possibly no. So would it make me feel better in the here and now say that, well, we at least have another left back? Because we do have another left back. We don't think he's very good. And we also have another left back, Mitchell Frame. We also have another left back on what we just stuck on loan to Motherwell. So there are 3 other left backs that we could have had, and we just don't think they're good enough. So us going and saying, well, here's 4. So we clearly have gone, Thiago Araujo, €4 million. He's not worth that. And if we'd have signed him for €2 million in the first day of transfer window, people would have probably gone another €2 million punt here. like I really don't see, other than signing an €8 million left back who's really good, which is pretty hen's teeth, I would say. In this market at this time, like I realise that this is full on exactly what Peter Lawler would say, but there is a utility to saying, well, actually, we don't want to spend money to buy players who, in 6 months' time, we're going to go, well, they weren't good enough, and now we've got them on a 5-year contract, blah blah blah. Whereas there is a utility in saying we could wait 3 days and madly scramble to get a 6-month loan of a left back who could be of a higher quality, different age group, whatever. And a worst case scenario, they're better than Bernabé, and we can give them back. Like, I'm not, obviously we did that with like that's Nat Phillips, but Nat Phillips was an injury-induced kind of problem. But like, I could see us going into the market for a 27-year-old big club's third choice left back who probably is still better than Bernabé. And if he was good, we could keep him. And if he was shit, see you later. I mean, that's probably John Joe Kenny, but like the left side, Diego Laxalt. but like, there's plenty of these sort of. I would rather a Diego Laxalt than a £4 million because we panicked when he was actually £2 million worth player who we end up stuck with forever and can't get rid of. So I'm trying to justify the pragmatism of this, but I do kind of understand it because I actually went and tried to Google what the reaction at the time was to the 2020-2021 summer window where we signed Laxalt and Duffy and blah, blah, blah. And there was quite a lot of people saying, this Laxalt kid's really good. Didn't last, but at the time we were like, played for AC Milan and runs around a lot. And then we went, oh yeah, his left foot's never seen his right one, but I don't know who's his Diego Laxalt play for now. I don't know. I hope he's still got that hair.
He's in Russia, I'm sure.
In Russia?
I think so.
Oh, they probably shaved his hair off. That's a shame.
I think he still has it.
Oh, that's good. That makes me feel better. You'll go down as one of the all-time worst, absolute worst.
For sure. I do think this Arajo one is an interesting one you bring up because I agree that there's nothing. Same way I felt with Lagerbielke and one or two others, it's no point naming. But when you look at their profile, it's like, I don't see why we're interested in some of these people. And at the beginning of that kind of that kind of point you were on, in terms of the transfer kind of nonsense and whatever that's been going on, we had a bit of proper transfer nonsense a couple of days ago where it was like, Owen Beck's happening. Celtic are interested in Beck. We're getting him. We're not just loaning him. We're buying him. Beck's happening. We're getting it. Oh, he's just played for Liverpool. He can't play for any more teams.
Was that all? Now, I was asleep when this happened, but this was all within about 10 minutes, right? This was like all within story in the records comes on as a 6 hours or
something. Yeah, but not within like a day, certainly, And it was on and off, all in a quick kind of move there. So we had a little bit of that. Maybe it's Celtic, like you say, maybe they were putting their eggs in that Owen Beck basket, and Liverpool were stringing them along a little bit. Let's train the guy. Let's get him. He made the bench. Let's keep him. And they've just went for it in the end, which probably puts Celtic behind the 8 ball. They really, and this will kind of show how prepared they are because they clearly have went for him, and are made him the primary target of this window. Certainly, is the way it sounds and feels like at the moment. So, how quickly do we bounce back from that? And I don't want it to be a Thiago Araújo, as you say. The recommendations I've got come out of MLS because there's a few guys looking to leave there that play left back that would suit us pretty well. That honestly, I'm seeing transfer fees getting reported. I put a tweet out yesterday, but Celtic are embarrassing in this window, like properly. Like the goalkeeper we were linked to from Elfsborg or whatever, went at Brentford for £3 million. Right, which is a Celtic price tag. Celtic love that price tag, right? And they're trying to kid on now, like Celtic didn't really go for him. It's the same club we got Lagerbielke from. There's no chance in hell that they have scouted that team to find Lagerbielke and not seen the goalkeeper at the same time. And there's no way we've not been in the room and been involved in it.
We did mention this last week, but Jordi Boss. This is Jordi Boss. Like how many times did we watch Marco Tilio to miss the guy playing with behind him, who was the best player on that team other than Marco Tilio?
The guy you mentioned last week, the guy Boss, that's who you're talking about now.
Yeah, Jordi Boss,
plays in Belgium. I was chatting with Sean, who does one of the other shows with us on the channel. totally unrelated. I don't think he'd. Maybe he did listen to the podcast. I'm not too sure he did. To be honest with you, but we were talking about left backs, and he listed 4 of them. And your man was right, second on the list. Boss, the Australian, isn't he?
Yeah,
Left back.
yeah, he's Australian,
in Belgium.
but he's Dutch descent, I think. But yeah, he. So him and Tilio are the best 2 players in the team that they actually lost because we have like a grand final system here. So I think they came first in the league, but then you have to play the playoffs, and they got beat 6-1 by Jason Cummings powered Central Coast Mariners. But actually, with Nick Montgomery, he's now the Hibs manager, was the manager then. But beyond that, they were like the best team last year and the year before, and yeah, they were the best 2 young players on it. And so somehow we managed to watch the left winger, but not the left back, who went to Westerlo, I think it was Westerlo, somewhere in Belgium, for like
buttons.
Well, put it this way: Marco Tilio was the highest transfer fee that an A-League club had ever received until Imran Kundo went to Bayern. So he went for less than Marco Tilio. And so we signed a winger we didn't need. Not that I still hold the candle for Marco Tilio, having seen him play. Came on for 2 minutes in the Asian Cup. But Boss was equally as good in the A-League, and we somehow missed him. But there you go. So here's the thing with Owen Beck, right? I obviously, as I say, I was asleep when this happened, so I missed the whole drama. I just woke up to see that he played for Liverpool. If we'd have signed a 20-year-old with half season at Dundee and who was it, Preston before, Bolton, Blackpool, somewhere in my neck of the woods. If you'd have written down that profile and said 20-year-old, only playing the English second tier for Dundee or for other Scottish team, I don't know if we'd be that excited. Now, you've seen him play more than I have, but like the remit was get somebody better than Greg Taylor, and he is at least at this stage, I would say, not better than Greg Taylor. If we were to sign him if we had like signed him on a proper deal for like a not a loan, what's a transfer? Then it would have been, what are we talking about? Then it would have been, I'd have been more excited about it. But I don't, I think that is, look, he might want to be a world beater, but it doesn't seem to me like the sort of thing that when Brendan Rodgers famously said he was looking for quality, which everyone, again, because they appear to listen to what Brendan Rodgers says and take it seriously, which, do you remember who's talking to you? The guy who met the guy in the tunnel, Danny McGrain has a job for life, famous bullshit artist Brendan Rodgers. Like, don't take anything he says seriously. It's not worth it. But yeah, am I too cynical? Is that too cynical?
It's not worth it. I just love that statement. It's just not worth it. Don't fall back in love again. Don't believe the lies again. Don't get into it. But it's hard
he's
to
like
because we're all desperately.
Ex, you know?
Yeah,
I promise you, Sharon, I've changed.
Yeah, we're all desperate for answers. We're all desperate for solutions to come. So it's hard not to. I think that kind of moves us kind of nicely on. Of course, let's see what happens in the remaining days of the window. I'm not holding I was saying, sorry, just on the goalkeeper thing. So I just wanted to finish that before I walked away from it. Valdimarsson, or whatever his name is, let's see how good he is and whatever in the full kind of passage of time, right? But I hate when people are like, oh no, Celtic weren't really into it or whatever. They were blatantly. You mentioned the guy that Atletico Madrid bought, right? I don't know this guy, never heard of him. But they bought him from like Rapid Bucharest, and when you check him out, his stats are mad. Like, it looks like a pretty decent keeper. They paid 1 million quid for him, So, and I think one of the keepers I did recommend on a video on the channel in December, he's a Croatian under-21 number 1 goalkeeper playing in Holland. It looks to be moving to Hull for like 4 million quid or something like that. So there is like deals that we're not going to get a goalkeeper in January. We're not going to talk about goalkeepers on the show today or anything like that. But in any of these positions, there is just no excuse for it being January, or there was not deals out there to be done, etc. It's all about it's about Celtic actually getting their finger out and making things happen.
So this is my pet hate of this particular period in the window as well is that there is there's 2 lines of argument here, which is the FFS sign Martin Boyle, which is just sign anybody, which I think, why would you sign players who aren't good? We've done that loads of times. This is David Fernandez. This is Nadir Chifchi, literal and metaphorical nadir. Like, we have done this loads of times, it doesn't work. And then there's the other thing, which is, if you think he's good, go and pay the money, which is basically saying, we, a body which negotiates, are just not going to negotiate, just name us whatever price, which is the Fran Sandaza goes, is it Fran Sandaza or Kevin Kyle who went to Rangers and said, they said just reject the first offer, and the first offer was like 10 times what they were going for, and they just looked at each other and rejected it and got the money anyway. Like, so that is the level of negotiation. Like, both of these arguments are completely stupid, and yet, like, I heard somebody today going on the Owen Beck thing and just been like, just pay the money, Celtic, and you're like, no, you don't go to Liverpool and go, this guy, we'll just pay you 10 million for him, because they'll go, oh, actually, he's 20. Like, that's how negotiations work. Anyway, let's move on. Because as you can tell, this is, I am frustrated about this, but I'm also like, I'm both frustrated that we don't do anything. I'm frustrated that people's reactions don't appear to have learned from year to year when we just buy people for the sake of it. They
It's the hope. It's the hope, Meehall. It's the hope.
Do you know what I was doing?
We have the big fat bank balance. There's more money clearly coming, and we've got clearly sellable assets as well if they were going to shit the bed financially in the summer and go, oh, we spent too much in January. Oh, it's not like we're going to be down the creek without a paddle in any foreseeable reality in the immediate future, so you've got to hope.
do you know, so last night, this is how sad I am. I was reading what an article Fabrizio Romano wrote many years ago for The Guardian about like what he did. Not, he does lots of articles and he's, by all accounts, very good journalist. But like, he was doing sort of, and the way that he was writing, and I know that this is his job, was very much like the transfers was the most exciting part of the season. And you're like, transfers is it's the bit that you talk about because there's no football on. Like, it's like the most about, turns out the best bit about football is the bit where they play football. It's not the bit where you speculate wildly and, I mean, I'm sure it is if you're from Fabrizio Romano, but like because there is, and I know this is somebody who works in sports media, nothing sells like transfers. Like, it is the lowest hanging fruit of journalism. Everybody clicks on it. You don't have to do any work. You just have to make it up. And basically, when somebody who does all the work, not that I sit around making up transfers, I actually stole off Tifo Football, a whole way of how can you try and do this without making stuff up, where you sort of, who would the stats sign, the sensible transfers to Tifo Football called it. I call it smart signings because, come up with a new name. But like, it is infuriating because if we were playing twice a week, I would be a lot less bothered about the transfer window, but we're not. So I am, and it's frustrating. And then we talk about it and I get even more frustrated. Although it's also like, it is enjoyable and I hate it. It's like junk food.
Yeah, that's probably the way to think about it. And that was kind of, I think, the way Celtic fans maybe thought in terms of the 5-0 victory we had against Buckie Thistle. I don't know how much this game tells us coming into the Ross County game, which I don't think is actually going to be in a lot of ways terribly different. Derek Adams is circling the drain at Ross County, it feels like at the moment. They're just going from bad to worse and on the pitch and off the pitch and everywhere in between.
I know we've all seen his interview, right? But
yeah.
That he ended that interview was, I don't want to say anything because it would be unprofessional. And you're like, so what was the bit before? what was the bit before then? Was that you being professional? When you said that you didn't know what you were doing and that league was shit, but you're apparently also too shit for it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So there's maybe some suggestions maybe it doesn't make it to Celtic Park, but I find that hard to imagine at point of recording. So we'll see how it goes. But Buckie Thistle, probably the most notable parts of the game was the inclusion of the youth players, Daniel Kelly and Rocco Vata. I think Vata was quite interesting to see, obviously getting the goal, being a bit more central in the kind of picture as well. Does that maybe signal he's the substitute for Kyogo in the 70th minute for Ross County?
I think he will be, and I know we can do what is now fast becoming traditional Asian Cup roundup, but I suspect by the time this comes out, you'll know. But there's a pretty decent chance that it'll be Japan v Korea, which is the perfect round of 16 clash for us, because we'll either get O and Yang back, or we'll get Maeda and Tati back.
Won the career.
Come on, yeah. I have generally done this calculation in my head. I'm like, it'd be good to have a second striker, but it'd be good to have two good.
Hatate. Let's get Hatate back.
Yeah, I might have to play second striker. So I think the thing about Vada that struck me, right, and this maybe obviously it's a while since he last played, but he looks a lot stronger than he was before. Like he looks like he's got bigger, which I guess we should expect at 18, right? But like I don't know if it's the way he carries himself or he has actually put on weight, but like he looked a lot more solid, which would, like, I'm sure they do this. This is a very common thing in my world, but like if you know someone's moving positions, you can tell them like you can be 3 kilos heavier to play striker than you can to play winger, for example, or you can be a lot heavier to play centre back. So I think if they've told him, and actually I don't know if you saw Rudy Vada's comments. But he was going on about how, he's always bashing the gym and stuff like that. And I thought, it was like when Ryan Christie came back from Aberdeen, where he'd been on loan. Yeah. And you were just like, oh man, he's been eating the whole time. Like, I don't know what they've been feeding him in Aberdeen. But maybe he's going to move back to his mum's house, right? He's from that part of the world, right? Somewhere. His mum was just feeding him proper food. Yeah. Whereas he's been eating super noodles sat in his Glasgow West End flat. But so I think he looks stronger, which is good. I think his skill set, I have to say I can't remember enough about him playing as a winger, but like he made some good runs. He looks really arrogant, which I like. He looked like a guy who thought he should be playing there, whereas he looked quite timid previously. Like wingers and strikers are the guys who'll get games at Celtic. Like we think of like when McGregor came in, he was forced to play in the left wing. Like it's a lot easier to carry that guy on the bench and bring him on when you're 2-0 up than it is to do the centre half. So I think there's definitely a role for him if he wants to play through the middle, and it's also like so. With this contract thing of his, which I guess we can briefly touch on while we're talking about him, because I have to say, Daniel Clay looked all right back. He was only on the field for not that long, so there's less to say about it. But he didn't score. But what Brock Abada appears to have done is what every single rugby league player would do, which is just wait and see your options. Because previously he could have signed a deal when there was only us could speak to him prior to January the 1st. We can offer him some money, but we don't. He doesn't know what Frosinone or whoever, Como, whatever teams are in for him are going to offer him. So just don't sign it. If I was his agent, I'd be saying just don't sign it until January 31st. They'll either offer you more money or one of the other clubs will offer you more money. And then you've got a decision to make. Because if you sign it on the 1st of December, you only listen to one offer. This is a stupid plan. And the way that it works in rugby league is very much like that. So if you have no intention of moving anywhere, you love where you live, blah, 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 you just sign the deal. But if you're the agent, you'll be saying, no, like, at least listen. It doesn't cost you anything to listen. So do that. And so now the fact that he's played, I think that would show that they think that he'll sign with him, because why would you play that kid if you don't think he's going to sign? Like, give it to Joey Dawson still playing for us out now. Give it to somebody else.
Feels like Doak got some minutes in an attempt to just get that contract negotiation signed over, didn't it?
But I think there's a difference when the other team is Liverpool as opposed to when the other team is, Como.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I don't know. Roger Mitchell lives there, the old SPFL head.
Cesc Fabregas is their manager. There's an interesting footnote.
There you go. You get to potentially bump into Roger Mitchell in the street, which will be a good reason to sign for Celtic. But then you don't get to talk to Cesc Fabregas. So that's a reason to sign for Como.
I think like every time I've seen that, I've seen him play B team in like the Youth Champions League, and I've seen him like come off the bench for Ange and whatever he got last season for us. I was never overly convinced with him as a winger. It is clear to see when you see him in the B team action, like he is like physically ahead of like a lot of other people at his age group, certainly. So I think like, and if he can be used through the middle, it could be a good position for him. So I think out in the wing, I just never really grabbed my attention for Celtic B or for the senior team as being like a great winger. Or you can see why he's out in the wide area. He's fast, he's confident, like you say, and he is quite strong. Holding defenders off on the run. He's not a guy that gets pushed off the ball dead easy. So like working through the middle, that could be the development path for him. And like, yeah, I would like to see him sign the deal if that's what's going to happen. He was going to get played along with O, and him and O are going to jostle for minutes behind Kyogo. I think that's not a bad way to go for the rest of the season if you can get the requisite goals out the strikers that we need, obviously, if they're all firing and on form. And it's another academy product that hopefully we can be integrating into the squad if that's the case. I would be more convinced of him through the middle than on the wide areas. That's kind of what I'm circling around here.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think there is a gap in our squad. Like we have all been saying, or everyone's been saying, going out and sign a third striker, right? But you can't sign players on the presumption that other players get injured. Like that's not something that a club like us can do. We can't just stockpile players because Kyogo might get injured. The plan is Kyogo is the first striker, O is the second striker. If Kyogo gets injured, O plays. Like all Maeda plays. Because I think that would be actually what happened, just for tactical reasons. But let's not manifest that into existence. But there is a space for a third striker, which should be a youth product. Like in the same way that we should have three midfielders, 3 backup midfielders, and then youth players. This should be the third choice in every position should be a youth player, and they should be able to move up that as much as possible. Like that's kind of how I think it should work. So, especially because he's a forward, you can much more easily integrate that player into the team. Like he's clearly, like he's played the most out of any of his generation in terms of the youth. You know, he's the guy who's playing as a striker for Ireland, scoring for Ireland. Like I can see this happening to the end of the year if he signs his contract. If he doesn't, then we're all very silly, and I hope he enjoys living by a big lake. But I think I know it was. Put it this way: if I was him as an 18-year-old, and my dad went on a major Scottish media outlet YouTube channel and basically said he's going to re-sign for Celtic. Oh, was it an Irishman? Sorry. What does PLZ stand for? I don't know. Premier League Zone. That's what I'm guessing at. I could find this out, I'm sure. But like, well, this is how little I know about it. Frantically Googles. But yeah, so I think if my dad had gone and done that, I'd probably consider that quite embarrassing dad behaviour. But he probably doesn't do it because he thinks he's about to go and sign and move to Italy. Maybe he doesn't want his kid to move to Italy. Like maybe he likes having him around the house. But I think if it was my dad when I was 18, he'd been like, could you piss off? Like, go live somewhere else. You're quite annoying. But yeah, I think that if it was like an adult, I would suggest that that's the sort of thing that I wouldn't pay much mind to. But given that he's 18, I would probably think his dad has a relatively big say. And his dad used to play Celtic, so have you got any thoughts on Daniel Kelly? Because other than that he shares the name with a former Australian UFC fighter, I can't honestly say I remember much about what he did.
I've seen him play B team. I'm surprised that he got the minutes, to be honest with you. He's always looked like he's a big, strong midfielder in the B team. Definitely, again, physically ahead of his peers. And again, like in the match itself, I don't think there's anything of note really to go along with it. But good to see somebody that has been developing through the B team system. Again, just get their debut in the cup, get some minutes. I think that might have been a bit of a call of, like because the B team play against the likes of Buckie. I don't know if they actually play Buckie Thistle directly, but same kind of level on the tiers.
Yeah, Buckie's Highland, Lowland.
Yeah. So it's like, he's a familiar opponent for a midfielder. Maybe it's a good opportunity to just see him next to, the first teamers and like, can he cut it with them? So I think when we've seen that with Ben Summers, like I'm really excited about Ben Summers, who's out on loan currently at Dunfermline, who plays centre mid. So, and I think like when you've seen him come in those situations, like me anyway, I was like, he's a player. I really like him. So it may have just been his kind of opportunity to get a look in, and like that can he make that step is maybe the judgment there. So let's see.
Do you want to just have a brief moment for a centre midfielder who did play extended roles? Because I think we found Odin Holm's level. He's definitely better than Buckie Thistle. No, I do. I think playing in the 6. Like, this is the ultimate problem he's going to have. Is that I think a couple of weeks ago I floated the idea that he's a 6. He's not. Always plays an 8. He doesn't seem that sort of player. He seems like ball recovery, really quick moving it on, that sort of stuff. He basically is like a little mini Conor McGregor. And the problem is that he's never going to play because we're always going to play Conor McGregor. So what do you do? Unless you want to move to a double pivot, which I really can't see us doing unless we had a 10, which we don't. I don't see where he ever plays. Conor McGregor plays every game and never comes off. Or if he does come off, he comes off for 5 minutes. And I obviously Buckie Thistle, whatever. But like that seems to be like I thought that was his best position. The more that I see of him, the skills that he has, like the way that he moves it across both feet, just quickly moves the ball on. Really good at just first. What's the PPDA thing where it's how quickly do you get to somebody after you've turned the ball over? How quickly do you pressure the ball? That sort of stuff looks brilliant. And this is my hot take from before: is that in the Champions League, I don't know. Obviously, he got sent off in his only Champions League appearance, but he. The problem with McGregor is that he's not fast enough. Like all of the aspects of his game are really good, except physicality, which has always been his problem. Even when he was young, he wasn't that fast. Like he's kind of good in small spaces.
Nippy.
Kind of fast. He's nippy, that's the word. But he's not over any length of, he can't cover ground. And you could see that in like Lazio, was it? We got absolutely torn wide open on multiple occasions with him. Like, and luckily Lazio were rubbish, but like right through the middle where you thought if that had been anybody with any sort of engine. And I just think, obviously Holm's young, his other levels are not to the level of Conor McGregor, but like he can cover space, I think, a lot more effectively. And I think if he'd been fit, I think Iwata would have played those games for exactly that reason, just because he would have been able to cover that ground better and he could have used McGregor further forward or whatever. But I just wonder if that's something that we can look forward to and say, like, this isn't, for now, it's probably not a problem, but like, when we go into the Champions League next year, it might be, fingers crossed we do, it might be the better idea to have Odin Holm either next to McGregor or behind McGregor with him in the left A as a way of kind of squaring that circle, because clearly this is where I think he's best. And I just don't know. I wonder if he'll ever play there enough necessarily because of who Conor McGregor is. And like McGregor's great, but he is also slow and old.
I've not been convinced on Odin Holm attacking. Like, I think every time you've seen him kind of play for Celtic, like if he gets anywhere near the 18-yard box, and I know he's got an assist, he's got a goal and stuff like that. Like he can be, but you just feel like he's in the nosebleeds. If he shoots from outside the box, it's looked pretty weak and feeble. And I know he has been effective in the final third. I know he scored against Buckie Thistle as well to keep that kind of run going. But I don't really see him. Yeah, fair. But I don't really see him as an attacking kind of midfielder. But I do think he's not. I don't think he's a defensive midfielder either. I do think he is a box-to-box kind of guy. I do think he's meant to be mini Hatate. I think that's what they thought when they've bought him. Who knows how he'll actually kind of move on. But like you say, I think if Iwata's fit, he plays 6 back up for the exact reason you've said there for McGregor's deficiencies in European level. Like Iwata will cover ground. Like Iwata will, and that's probably one of Hatate's big strengths as well, is recovery speed. So I think Odin Holm again, it's more of maybe that Hatate position, giving him cover for there. But he's still a bit green behind the gills. So it's kind of hard to say because, again, like I listen to a lot of Celtic fan media, and I still see people in live chat saying Scales is a left back. And it's like, no, he's not. We've worked this out. He's a centre back now. And with Odin Holm, we're still at that point. Like at some point it'll be quite clear. Oh yeah, this is where he plays, and we're just not there yet. I think so. That's just me anyway.
But do you think you'll get enough? I think 6, but I think he's also similar kind of to Bernardo, like very good between the boxes, kind of useless in either of them. A lot to be said for that. And Rodgers loves that sort of player. But I didn't mean that as a piss take, but it does sound like one. But like he loves that, guy who keeps the ball player. It's probably why he doesn't like Italian that much, I think. But
control,
yeah, that's the one. Do nothing with the ball for a bit. Have you considered just not doing anything? But yeah, this is how we work. But yeah, so my worry is, what do you think? Like, because my worry is that he's not, between now and the end of the year, he's going to play, 10 times for 20 minutes. What's that? 200 minutes. I just think that's not good enough. Like, he's played a full season in Norway. And this, obviously there'll be a slight drop off in terms of moving from Norway to here, but like players don't get better by not playing. Like, he needs to play. And I just wonder if he'll ever get that chance if they think he's a 6, because McGregor never comes off the field. And maybe this will be the time in which they go, do you know what? We finally have a guy who could do that. But I don't think they will.
Yeah, I don't think they will either, personally. I think, I think that's unfortunately Iwata's cross to bear. I think this is I'm thinking about it from a coach's perspective. I think putting Holm in that position, he can do the job, but you get him like high value minutes. He gets lots of actions in this game. He's a big contributor to the match overall. And it's not like the 20 minutes when you're beating somebody 4-0 and he only gets 4 touches of the ball. It's not the same as like a game like this. Like, I'm just checking when he get, no, he got the full 90, didn't he? No, he came off at 72. Sorry, yeah. He came off at 72. So he gets 72. Like, and I know Buckie Thistle, low quality opposition, but I would say high value minutes. You know, he was involved in the team, playing with the first team. You know, it's full choice back 4 essentially, like Carr Vickers from the Rocky, of course. Kyogo up front, O'Reilly and Bernardo in midfield.
You've slipped for Naraki in there, but all right. Cool.
But essentially, you know, Johnson, Taylor, Scales, Hart. You know, it's not Bain and Welsh and, you know, these kind of Rowson or whatever, you know, just been at a glance. Like, it's basically a full strength team, essentially, except for Holm, who we're talking about in the Rocky. So I think, like, Holm being a part of the best 9 there, playing with them in a competitive match. Like, I think that's the manager trying to push him on a bit, try and get him a kind of almost like a crash course to get him ready for whatever minutes he will get. Because we've seen guys be mad, like Abada. Remember Abada when we had Jota? Abada was a mad super sub, and it was like every week, like how can you pick the front 3, you know? And it was really hard. And maybe he can put that pressure into the midfield 3, maybe on the Hatate role while he's still out the building.
Yeah, you just made me think about that. Did you see that there was I can't remember who said it. Probably, I want to say Tom English, but maybe it wasn't Tom English. But going on about how it'll be you and Maury. Going about how we didn't pick any youth players in the starting 11. Exactly the same sort of people who'd been saying if we'd picked the B team, would have gone, how disrespectful. And then some St. Ninian's high school tweeted how they had 5 former pupils on the pitch playing for Celtic at the end.
Nice.
The team who have no youth players, and we had 5 from the same fucking school. Which, admittedly, I think is the school they send.
That's the Celtic school.
Yeah. It's not as if Axel Twanzebe, Conor Ronan, and I can't remember who the other professional footballer who went to my school is, but me. Oh, Joe Thompson. There you go.
Conor Ronan.
Yeah, he went to my school. Well, he obviously I don't know him because I'm considerably older than him, but he and Axel Twanzebe of Man United fame. I think he might be Aston Villa now, but they won. My school won the All England Schools Cup. Yeah, we had a real crap. St. Cuthbert's Rochdale, shout out. Of 10 years after I left, but maybe 10 years might be optimistic. Moving swiftly on, Ross County.
So Ross County, we kind of mentioned Derek Adams earlier on. I don't think the Buckie Thistle game tells us like too much about like any. I don't think we'll see Odin Holm start this game. I don't think we'll see the Rocky start this game. I don't think we'll see Kelly come off the bench. We spoke about Vata there as well, but is the front 3 like? I think Abada starts this one, but there is maybe a wee school of thought that thinks Kuhn comes back from his dental surgery, and maybe Kuhn comes into this one. What do you think? Is it going to be straight Abada starts again, or will we see Kuhn from the beginning?
No, I think it'll be Abada. I think, and to be honest, I'm not, but I'm pretty happy with that. Like he has done the job loads of times. Like he'll, like we know he's a known quantity. I think what the ideal situation is that Abada comes on, scores, and then Kuhn comes on and gets to stake his claim as well. It's interesting, isn't it? Because as we mentioned, Ross County are a bit of a shower. Like their manager's probably going to get sacked. If not, I don't know how much we'd have to beat him by for him to get sacked. But he's definitely doing, as me and my mates call it, he's got the old sugary pegometer. He's not quite been set to Jotta's, but the peg is sugary. I don't even know how you say that out loud, but. Will they be a bigger test than Buckie Thistle? But you would hope that it'll be it won't be a particularly tough game. And the worry kind of is that imagine Abada scores a hat-trick, right? And then we go to Aberdeen and Hibs back straight afterwards, which are exactly the sort of game where Abada is often rubbish. Like, if Abada has to play badly, you might start Kuhn in those games, and Kuhn might be great. So, I also, you mentioned Narosky there. Like, I wonder, there has to be a point at which you go, the best two players we have are Narosky and CCV, and therefore they have to come in and play. Because you basically, what you're saying is that Scales is good enough until he isn't good enough anymore, but then there will be the incident in which he isn't good enough when you might lose. Does this make any sense? Where you could preempt that happening by going to the guys you think are better to start with. Like, the worst thing that could happen would be Scales to not, like, I think he is, I've gone through that he's on a hot streak to he's better than I thought he was, but I still don't think he's as good as Narosky and CCV. And what I think is currently that Rodgers hasn't had to choose. He hasn't had all three available. At some point, he is going to have to choose. And I think it'd be very hard for Narosky. I think he's the best progressive passer out of them in a game at home to a team who are going to sit deep, to leave him out. I think the obvious answer would be just not to pick CCV and give him another week, but then same problem. We go to 2 hard away games where you'd really like to have him, and then he's not played. So I generally don't know what he'll do. Like, I think, having watched many years of Brendan Rodgers, I think he'll go for Scales. But I think, if it was Ange in charge, he'd pick Narosky. I think Ange's a lot less sentimental.
I don't think sentiment comes into it. I think Scales is, honestly, I don't think he puts a foot wrong. Like, I don't see where he's going to let the team down, to be honest with you. I think there's maybe more of an argument with his current fitness situation that, like, is Vickers coming into this game? Because, like you say, we should be in possession of the ball for the whole match. Do you need Vickers if he is, like, working his way back into fitness or whatever? It's probably a good match to play him, but you say stylistically.
So just to come back on that, you've never seen Scales put a foot wrong, right? Can I posit that he got skinned by the Buckie Thistle strike? It was a good pass.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
But, and also, I
Champions League, the derbies, the big games that matter, even every game. Like, I don't see the big man. I don't see Narosky giving the team something extra. I don't see him improving.
I would say Narosky he's the best of the three at progressing the ball. Like, his packing stats are really good. So I think that's one why we keep him. For two, every team's policy against us is to bomb Greg Taylor. And I think Liam Scales under the high ball is not as good as a guy as Narosky. I think I'd rather have Narosky there on the left. Although I would admit I like having a left-footed player. I think a left-footed player, ideally you would always have a left-sided centre-back, and Scales is that, which helps him progressing the ball. But I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one, because I think it's come up every week. But I'm not against Scales. I think Scales will be fine. But I think he is the third best centre-back we have. And we now have 2 better ones available. But, the point of competition between players is that if you're good, you keep playing. So I understand that argument that he shouldn't be dropped because he hasn't played badly. But I don't think Narosky has either. And I don't think CCV has either. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, disagree. Yeah. Agree to disagree, I think, at this point, for sure. But I say, I'm pretty sure by the end of the season, or very close, like the Scales bandwagon, I think everyone will be on it before long. Because I say the big man just, especially put a better left back next to him, as well.
Well, how much of this is because Greg Taylor is getting bombed every week? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I think Taylor's good at some stuff, but like, if I was setting up a team against us, as every team has done, I would just be dropping balls in Greg Taylor's head all day. Even Buckie Thistle tried to do it. So,
last thing I'll kind of mention about the predicted team for Ross County, we mentioned Kuhn and Abada kind of a little bit already. Kuhn, and is meant to be versatile. Do we maybe even see Kuhn come on for Palma in this game? Maybe not from the start, of course, but later on in the match. Is that something that we would maybe see come on? Because Palma has flat to deceive in some cases, and I think Rodgers is after that kind of attacking wing element. So just a wee thought on that, perhaps.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty. You never know against Buckie Thistle, right? But he was pretty wasteful against Buckie. Like, he did actually. He scored a really good goal off his left foot. I don't think I've ever seen him kick the ball with his left foot before. He's not normally too interested in the other left foot. But yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how Abada goes. Like, the obvious thing would be to put him on for Abada, but we kind of don't have anyone else high on the left. Like, you're playing Forrest off the other side, Johnson. Be worth a go, yeah. he is at the moment. Admittedly, this is because Maeda's not there, but like he has got the problem of having nobody behind him, which is, I think, there's a couple. You look at Taylor, Johnston. There's a couple in that team who are never going to get dropped, and that shouldn't be the case. I guess that goes back to how we don't sign any players, but you also have to have sign players better than the guys you currently have. But that's been done to death, including about 20 minutes ago.
Fair enough. I think that's kind of where we're at with it all, isn't it? So Ross County at home, and then it kind of sets up a couple of difficult fixtures, as you mentioned, trips and games we've got against some of the traditional kind of top six or whatever. So it's it feels like just the whole season now. It's just every weekend it's going to be we need to win, like it always is, of course. But the pressure is just going to be absolutely on it. But I think with Palma and some of these other guys, like you mentioned there, who maybe don't have, like Palma in particular, I think he definitely feels under pressure. I think he knows he needs to keep his stats up, he needs to keep his production up, so that when the ranks are full, he's not going to get automatically dropped. He needs to give the manager, like you said, those questions, those problems at every opportunity. So so I think Palma is definitely. I don't think he'll be coasting. I don't think he thinks he's on easy street at the moment, even though Maeda and Yang are off continent at the moment. I think he definitely feels it.
Yeah, and that's the perfect. Go on.
The Rocky has come out with some quotes over this kind of period, talking about being optimistic about the second half of the season, and he says he's got a role in the squad and all that kind of thing. I forget the exact quotes, but they were within that. They were pre-Buckie Thistle, I think. So maybe the whole Naroki and maybe, I'm just going to go in circles with some of the squad dilemmas, but
No, I read them as well. I think they were in the old Pravda. So he's not going to come out and say, I'm looking forward to putting my feet up in the sort of me and James McCarthy, really good playing cards against each other. So, but no, it's good. That's what you want to say. So we do have obviously mentioned that we were expecting the old Donkapontu soon from Japan and South Korea. But there's a decent chance that they're going to play against each other on Thursday. So they could be back for the Aberdeen game. Which is the first one? Aberdeen then Hibs? Am I right? That way around? I think it's Aberdeen then Hibs. So there's a decent chance that at least 2 of our 4 Asia Cup plus to Martilio will be back. Which I guess is bad for them, but good for us. Hatate's been playing. Hatate put in a brilliant assist for the game that Japan lost at Iraq. And did you see that? Have you seen his assist?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, say that again. Whose assist?
Did you see Hatate's?
No, I haven't seen it yet. No, a good one.
He put in a brilliant corner. I was like, I don't think he's ever taken a corner for us. And you think how long he's been playing? It was proper. In and out, keeper. I mean, the keeper full on went for it, missed it completely, easy header at the back post. But it was the cross. It wasn't the counter. Keeper particularly was, he got drawn in. Not as good as Olivier and Chan's assist for a Cameroon goal.
I didn't see that. I watched one AFCON game and it was South Africa versus Namibia, and it was a battle of laughs. It was good.
Every AFCON game is honestly good. I don't know what it's too late now. Like, go back and watch. Was it Ghana against? Who are they playing? Mozambique. It's the greatest added time you'll ever see. It's the last game of the group. I think it was Mozambique. I'm trying to think if it was Ghana. Ghana got knocked out. I think it was 4 goals in added time and 2 penalties. It was chaos. Like, it was AFCON's the greatest tournament. It is just like Asia Cup has been all right. Like, Australia fucking stink the place out. It's so bad. So bad Martilio came off the bench. No, they were wasting time against Uzbekistan. Like, Jackson Irving is the only player who looks like he might score a goal. But AFCON's great. AFCON's so, like, it's constantly entertaining. It's brilliant. It's terrible. It's chaos. I think they've had like 2 managers sacked mid-tournament. Like, it's real good areas. Love it. And but I will be happy if one of Japan and South Korea. I think South Korea need to win by more than 2 goals more than Jordan win to overtake them. And if they don't overtake them, then they'll play Japan, which would be great. be well worth watching and the best possible outcome for Celtic.
Yes, let's hope so. Get half our boys back, certainly. And I think, so to kind of, well, we hope for that. A wee bit of Schadenfreude. I don't know if that kind of falls into that category or not for the Blue Samurai. But yeah, we hope they get knocked out so that we can get our boys back and really run away with this title and put it to bed, despite the January kind of blues and the roller coasters that we're all going through. We like to normally try and finish the show with a score prediction. I cannot think that we don't get a similar score line to what we did against Buckie Thistle. I think you went for something a wee bit more sensational last week.
I think I said 10. I think I jokingly said 10-0, but I think I might have also said that PSA was going to score 8, maybe about it. But I from what I understand about Ross County, they are about to sack their manager. They're rubbish. Their manager, all the players might be on the point where they're like, do you know, if we were to get absolutely thumped by Celtic, the manager could get sacked here. So yeah, I suspect if we were to score early, we might score a lot, and it could be a full-on. You know, we don't see teams chuck it that often, but they could full-on chuck it. This is the point where they'll chuck it. So, 7-0, 6-0, 5-0. What was it? Buckie was 5, right?
Buckie was 5.
Right, 6. That's how it works.
I love the optimism. The only thing I would say about Ross County is that I'm not sure if he's available, right? But their goalkeeper, Ross Laidlaw, is a proper tryhard against us. Like, he is, he loves to have a good game against us. So I mean,
I don't know if you've ever been on Andy Clark's Facebook, but when he was
no,
me and my brother used to have a running joke about how many SPFL jobbers you could actually who had public Facebook pages. Put it this way, his picture was him in I think he was at St Johnstone at the time I did this, but he was playing at Ibrox. So there's really something special about the St Johnstone trip to Ibrox that he enjoyed. And I wonder if Ross Laidlaw could be in the same category.
I don't know, to be honest. I just know every time we've played Ross County, I've expected it to be a huge score. And maybe we do beat them and we score a couple of goals, but that Laidlaw always pulls a few saves off and stops a few going in.
Yeah, I have to say,
if he's playing.
Yeah, me and my brother also have a joke about how are you aware of the concept of a jobber? Not a jobbie.
Yeah.
A job. Uh-huh. You know, like in wrestling, when I'm not a big wrestling guy, but when it's like a random person who just comes in to lose. So every team has about 3 players who you go, oh, bless Bill, he plays for them now. Or David Witherspoon, he plays for them now. And they're just like random SPFL guys, and they just move around, like, you know, Alex Goddich, Alex Jacobiti, like. So I look forward to seeing Ross County go, oh, him. Oh,
yeah.
That guy. Ross Laidlaw's one of them where I'm like, I'm sure, like, you don't have to play for many teams. 3's a good one. Your Midge Gardines, your Andy Considines, like the real, you know, the proper jobbers, the guys who keep the SPFL going. But yeah, I reckon Ross County's like one of the peak teams for that sort of player. So I can't ever say that I've kept up with them, because every time I watch them, I like it to be a surprise. Oh, that guy used to play something.
To anyone who's going to the game, we hope you have fun, travel safe, and hail, on the hoops.
I'll try and stay warm. Hope the trains still exist. That was, I have to say, very funny when I was watching that back on Sunday when they just announced midway through, sorry everybody, you can't go home.
Trains are done.
The trains are done. But I thought that is very ScotRail. Like, that is very ScotRail.
Apex.
Yeah.